Welcome to Exceptional Leadership. I'm your host, Anita Brooks. Though my focus is primarily pointed to leadership at an organizational level, let me assure you, most of what I share will translate to almost any aspect of life. Just tweak the info to fit your leadership role. Because whether you approach my content as a corporate leader, middle manager, small business owner, entrepreneur, or as a family member or friend, you are influencing someone. The question is, are you influencing well, exceptionally well? So let's take courage, exercise wisdom, and humbly invest in the people we are called to influence. Join me on a quest, not for perfection, but absolutely for exceptional leadership. Well, leaders, today we are going to discuss a topic that is near and dear to my heart. If you have followed me very long at all, you have likely heard me make this statement: an empty cup has nothing left to pour into others. Leadership self-care is not just some cliched new hot topic term, but it is something that's crucial to our ability to do the job that we're called to do and to do it exceptionally well. So I have a guest today. We're in for a treat. I'm looking forward to a high energy conversation. And so let's welcome Liz. Is it Faison? I want to make sure I pronounce your last name correctly, Liz.
Yes, that's correct.
Awesome. Okay. Well, welcome to the show, Liz. And I am thrilled to have you share with us what exactly you do, because I know you work with a lot of leaders.
Correct. Hi, Anita. Thank you so much first for having me. This obviously is a topic that I get excited about because I am a certified personal trainer and a wellness coach, and I work with corporations in getting their employees healthier and creating a culture of wellness. And what you just said about not leading from an empty cup, we have to take care of ourselves as leaders so that we can lead others well. And then when you lead them well, you are an example of that self-care, taking care of yourself. And that's what I really wanted to share about today.
One thing I know is if you're able to increase your energy, often that splashes on to your people. And so the entire environment or culture, if you will, has a higher energy level, which then equates to greater performance and enhanced profitability. So there's a payoff at the end of this.
Exactly. And part of being a leader is being able to implement new things, but it's hard to implement something new if you're not already doing it yourself. And a lot of times, once you take the step to become healthier, people will notice that energy level go up. And what you just said, there's another critical part to job performance, and that's the more you exercise, or when you exercise, you increase oxygen and blood flow to the brain, and it really does help you think smarter. It helps you think clearer, and it does increase performance.
And I know for me, I think more clearly. I definitely think more smartly or intelligently, but I also think faster. I mean, if I'm feeling lethargic or I'm struggling with something, oftentimes if I'll just go take a 20 or 30 minute walk, it's amazing what that does for my brain power. And then something I may have been trying to grind out for 2 or 3 hours, I can come back and sometimes knock it out in 30 minutes.
Exactly. And I love what you're sharing because you're leading me into my next point. One of the biggest advantages to taking a walk is releasing stress. And we all are in a different environment now, not only as leaders, but as employees. And one thing that I'm sure a lot of your audience will identify with is the Zoom fatigue, that if you're on Zoom more than normal because of the way that our workplace has changed from being in office to maybe even being 100% Zoom or even partially Zoom. Just getting up and exercising will reduce that Zoom fatigue, and getting that fresh air and vitamin D is so important for your body to release stress.
Liz, it's so fascinating that you just brought that up. I've never thought about it in relation to Zoom fatigue, but it makes perfect sense. And I can connect to that because I know during COVID, at the height of it, there were times when I was on business coaching calls starting at 7 a.m. in the morning, and there were a few times they went all the way to almost 9 p.m. at night. And
right.
I definitely had Zoom fatigue. I was physically fatigued because I was sitting longer for sure. And my eyes were tired. My brain was tired. My spirit was tired. And there's just something that you lack when you're on video, that you don't get the same energy exchange that you do when we're physically present with other people. That's why, even though, yes, I can speak and train on Zoom, I prefer to do it at live events because of the energy that I get from the audience and vice versa. So I love that you share that, because I know for me, it's so true that if I'll just get up and move, and especially outdoors in the fresh air with that sunshine hitting me, it can help snap me out of feeling just utterly exhausted.
Exactly. Bonding hormone that we produce when we are physically together, that we can't produce that over Zoom. And so that is why you'll get fatigued. And when you talk about that energy increase, that's exactly what happens. You literally absorb, you don't physically absorb it, but your body responds to the in-person, to the connection, to the smile, to the eyes. The eye contact is so critical, and it creates a hormone in your body that bonds you, that makes you feel connected.
That is so interesting. Several years ago, I was speaking somewhere and they had a little short presentation right before mine. And it was a nurse, and I'll never forget this. This really impacted me. Such a simple but profound fact that she shared. And that is that when human beings exchange appropriate physical touch, there is a positive energy transfer. And she was saying that there's actually been studies that have proven that can help to prevent very serious conditions like heart disease and cancer and diabetes and hypertension. And so I've always kept that in mind as far as, when I am interacting with other people, making sure that there's some kind of appropriate physical exchange.
I'm obviously a Christian. My business is Fit for Christ Wellness.
Okay, yes.
And the Lord made us for relationships. We are made to connect. And if we are not connecting and we are isolating and we're by ourselves, it's really a recipe for anxiety and stress to increase, because the levels of our cortisol will increase if we're not connecting. We produce dopamine by connecting in our brain, and that's your feel-good, your feel-good hormone, and we are your feel-good chemical. And serotonin decreases dramatically when we do not have physical touch or physical activity.
That is so important. And I share that view with you. I believe we were wired for these things. And I think there's natural healing that is provided for us if we'll only take advantage of it. But one of the dangers in leadership is oftentimes we get so hurried and harried, we forget to take advantage of what's at our disposal. And being outdoors and just getting a little bit of exercise and movement, aerobic activity, that can make all the difference in helping us to heal, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally as well.
Exactly. And I think most of us are pretty aware of that when it comes to the people that we lead, that most people it's not that they're not able to do their job. It's just that there are things going on in their personal life, usually, that cause them not to be able to perform well. So if you were able to help that or help them be stronger in that area, it just creates such a better work environment.
Yes. And as leaders, I would think that it would benefit us as well as the organization if we were to motivate our people to get more physically active and to refill their own cup. So yes, it's important for us to exercise self-care and to refill, but also to encourage our people to do that as well. Then we all have the advantage of a higher performing team, but also we're just going to plain old feel better.
Yes, yes. And there's a huge movement right now. There are a lot of health organizations that are springing up all over the place, and a lot of them use apps to try to get employees motivated. And the apps provide, maybe a coach that checks in with the employee once a week, or very low cost. But those aren't always going to work because there's no accountability between the employees because most people don't really care about being accountable to an app. If they did, more people would use MyFitPal, things like that. It's really having the accountability and the community among your employees and from you that really gets things going. And that's truly one of the ways that I serve corporations, is just giving them a blueprint that they can use, that they can hire a trainer that's in their area, or they can hire someone in the area. And believe it or not, even having someone come in once a week is huge.
Wow, I love that. And not only that, the work itself can feel more fun because we have something to look forward to. And I know in my coaching practice, I teach people to schedule things to look forward to. That's energizing all by itself. But this could be one of those things that we could schedule that we look forward to, is some fun movement together. And I think it would increase the team building and the bonding as well.
You know what? You just really hit the nail on the head with the bonding and the team building, because a lot of us, when we were growing up, maybe we weren't athletic, or we felt uncomfortable, or we felt like we didn't really want to exercise around anyone because we don't know what we're doing. But when everybody is doing it together, you kind of let your guard down and you become a little bit more transparent. And that transparency and that fun creates a little bit more intimacy and, as you just said, bonding. So important.
Well, and then we can better be there for each other, and we're more willing to come alongside each other when times get tough. When there's a crisis or a conflict, then we just gang up together in a very happy, positive way because we're used to doing something as a team already. So I love that philosophy.
Yeah, it's so important. And it may seem very overwhelming to start this, and you'll probably get a lot of, oh boy, here we go again. But it's really how you approach it. And it's not about getting skinny, because I think as a society, we already feel judged on our appearance because of social media. And so you have a lot of people that are already struggling with that judgment. So the way that you approach it is that we're going to have fun. Like you just said, something to look forward to. Let's just have fun. Let's just enjoy it. And once those endorphins get kicking, you won't even have to worry about people coming.
Well, and just saying something even a little silly can, I think, help break down some of those barriers and those fears that people have. And as a leader, I know one of the things in leadership that it has really helped me many times, and that is saying to the people that I am leading, you know what, I'm going to give you permission to judge me right now. And so, and so it just like, it takes all the walls down. And if you're doing that from this kind of a scenario, we could say, hey, we're going to stir some brain cells by moving our bodies a little bit. And guess what? You have permission to judge me because I'm probably going to make a little bit of a fool of myself. But then you're more relatable as well.
100%. And who wants to be led by someone that they can't relate to?
Exactly. It's hard to follow someone that you cannot relate to because there is a barrier and there's a disconnect of trust that takes place. But when we do feel connected and bonded to people, and we can set that up by doing some of these fun things in advance, then when the chips are down, people will follow us just about anywhere.
Exactly, because they know that you care and they know that you're honest and you don't have it all figured out. At least they can trust you.
Exactly. Liz, as the time that we are recording this, we are on the heels of the COVID-19 global pandemic. And as I go in and do business coaching, I continue to see something that I'm calling post-pandemic stress disorder. And there's a physical symptom that I see associated with this because there's a mental weight, there's a tiredness, a chronic fatigue that people
Yeah.
seem to have. It's attached to their emotions. It's like every level of their being has almost been attacked by this pandemic. Spiritually, I've seen it in people. And so being intentional first to understand that we're even dealing with something like this or that our people are dealing with this. I see it where people who were never late to work before are chronically having issues arriving on time. And when you talk to them, a lot of it's because of some of the things that they've been through, but also some of the anxieties and fears that have lingered and continue to linger. Every time we turn around, there's something on the news like, is it really over? Oh, wait a minute. Maybe not. Maybe there's going to be another spike. And it seems like people are constantly on alert and their adrenaline is pumped up at an unnatural state for too long of a period. So this post-pandemic stress disorder, as I term it, I see it having a very negative impact at work, but I also know from my own experiences in life, I've dealt with depression and anxiety, and I have found that one of the greatest healing agents has been physical movement. So if you don't mind, I'd love to, I know I didn't prepare you for this, but I'd love to have you speak into this and give your thoughts. Am I just crazy?
No, your body was never meant to live at that heightened state for a long period of time. And there's so many variables that are going into this perfect storm, or, the so-called perfect storm that we call it. And if you had a tragedy, you had the support of other people. But because of COVID, the sheer nature of what was happening, there was massive amounts of isolation.
Mm-hmm.
And so I actually just talked to someone about this a few days ago. Her husband passed away from COVID, and the grieving has been so deep. And it's been 2 years, but she was not able to actually be there with him in the room. And so it was, it was very heavy, normal emotional support that you get. So you have that. You have the economy, which a lot of people are on the verge. They just don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. So there's a lot of uncertainty financially. There's a lot of uncertainty personally, because COVID showed everyone that crazy pace that we were living at was not sustainable. And so when we had that opportunity to be able to work from home, it was really wonderful at first, because you did not have to be on that treadmill 24/7. And so it also made us realize how important family is. And it made us rethink our purpose, right? I'm sure you have a lot of people that have said, am I really doing what I was called to do? Because you realize the brevity of life.
Yes.
And so just so many factors. The war in Ukraine, we're seeing on the news that it's almost that we feel helpless, that we can't do anything. And so every facet of our life is on a high state of alert, but you don't have to let it stay there. Exercise, when you get your endorphins pumping and you get your adrenal system going, you're going to release those toxins. You're going to get rid of that cortisol. You're going to calm your nerve endings. And you're also going to, again, oxygenate the brain. You're going to get everything flowing. And I can tell you, as a person who suffered from severe depression, exercise was actually exercise was one of the things that stopped me from having to take a lot of medication. And I had an uncle, praise God, that when I was 15, he's a doctor, and he said, Liz, I just need to tell you, our family is prone to depression, and you might want to consider exercise. Mm. And so then, I also started really doing a lot of research about the health of our guts and what we eat, and how serotonin cannot be produced if you don't have a healthy diet, or it gets produced, but it's in minimal amount. And so just hormonally, how we need to eat real food. We need to really look at our nutrition and our gut health, because your gut is your second brain. And that really does affect anxiety and depression. And I have to tell you, Anita, when I work with clients and we go through that cleansing process initially, and 6 months are on the other side of it, they cannot believe that life can be that good.
Oh, wow. Okay. So
It,
am I asking too much to have you share a little bit about what you encourage clients to do as far as cleansing and the nutrition side of it? Because I'm very fascinated about the gut health. I've done a lot of research and a lot of work on myself as far as gut health. And I know for
right.
leaders, when I'm working with them, their diets are atrocious because they just live in that stressed out, let me grab something fast, or just skip meals completely, which I'm an intermittent faster. So I believe in a structured way of
Correct.
eating properly, but just to like eat junk, then go for long periods of time without eating anything, then eat more junk, that is not good for our body. So do you mind to speak into that?
Sure. I mean, I'm going to preface everything I say with everyone is different. And your first line of defense is to get a complete checkup at your doctor and to have your complete blood panel done,
Hmm.
because you just don't know kind of where you are with your body. And it would be very irresponsible for me to try to, obviously give a blanket answer for everyone. So
Sure.
first, that is your first step. But I can tell you, if you do these 5 things every single day, you will begin to feel better. And I don't care where you are health wise. Number one, drink your water. Every time you want to drink a cup of coffee, drink 2 cups of water. Yeah, limit the caffeine. Water is critical. Our body is made up of 60% water. It's so, so important. And I would recommend, I mean, kind of a rule of thumb is that you drink half of your body weight in ounces in water. But if you work out more, I drink a gallon a day. Truly, I do. I don't say that, like, oh, I just drink a gallon a day. Some days are harder than others. You have to know where all the clean bathrooms are. So that's a whole nother issue. But that's being honest. Most people don't like to drink a lot of water because they're stuck in meetings and they can't go to the bathroom.
Right.
Water is so important. Start your morning with 2 cups of warm water, and you'll be so surprised at how much better your gut feels just from doing that.
Okay.
The other,
I'm going to stop you just real quick. Why warm
Mhm.
water?
Because it relaxes the colon and it's
Oh,
not a shock. I wouldn't say hot. It's just warm. And because most people are used to that cup of coffee in the morning, it doesn't shock you when you first wake up. And it's a little bit more digestible to most people to do that.
maybe
I
soothing?
Yeah, soothing. Exactly. That's a good word for it. It just doesn't shock you. The second thing that I would do is add a cup of green leafy vegetables to every meal. Whatever kind you like is fine. But if you love spinach, that's perfect. Whatever kind you like, just dark, leafy, green veggies. This third thing that I would recommend is that you really turn off your devices.
Oh,
Get
amen.
Yes, and turn them off at least 2 hours before you sleep. The world is not going to end. We have 6 children, and I understand having your phone ready in case you get an emergency phone call. Our kids live all over the country, so I always am available for them. But I turn off all of my apps, and I don't answer any emails after 7 o'clock at night because my brain will not turn off. So you have to turn your brain off before you sleep. You really do. And about 2 hours before you go to bed. The fourth thing is get an adequate amount of protein. Protein, protein, protein. It's so important for your building blocks for your muscles. And as we age, we don't process the protein as efficiently as we did when we were younger. So we are going to need a little bit more. And then the fifth thing is enjoy healthy fat. Don't eat any processed foods. If it comes out of a box, don't eat it.
Okay.
Eat it in its most natural form. Don't drink juice, eat an orange.
Mm-hmm.
Eat it the way God made it. And the reason I say that is because there are nutrients and vitamins that you get from food that I don't care how many pills you take, you are never going to get that same quality. And you're not going to get form of the vegetable or nutrients that you need in its most pure form for your body to utilize it.
Well, and I know several people that I work with that have gut issues, ongoing gut issues, but a lot of it comes down to just what you said. They drink fruit juice, and so they believe that that's sufficient. And oftentimes, if they're lucky, maybe one. Otherwise, they're drinking energy drinks and or coffee. Very little water. But if you aren't getting not just the vitamins and the minerals from the vegetables and the fruits, but also the fibers, then your body
Exactly.
is not going to be able to process things. And the processed foods in the marketplace are not made like nature made, like God made fresh fruits and vegetables to be processed and broken down by our systems for the highest form of energy.
Exactly. There you go. You just hit it. That's it. That's plain and simple. If you want to have energy and feel good, eat real food.
That is incredible. And just with a little bit of intentionality, we can do that. And I know for some, they're like, well, I don't have time for all of that. I can tell you for years, I've practiced. If I can just take a couple of hours on a weekend, I can literally prepare whole foods to get me through the whole week. And when I don't do that, I do not feel nearly as energetic. I get less done. I don't feel like the quality of my work is as well. And I just feel like almost like there's a piece of me missing whenever I'm not eating properly. So I wholeheartedly agree with that. And there's so many benefits. You know, we hear it all the time, and people will sometimes even say to me, especially when it comes to the water, you know, because I'm kind of like a mama bear when it comes to drinking the water. I'm like you. I like that gallon of water a day. And
Yep.
I'll see somebody with an energy drink, and if I have a relationship with them, I kind of do this little eyebrow cock, and I'm like, really? Where's your water? And I get this response. I know, Anita, I know. But my challenge is always the same. Don't tell me what you know. Tell me what you're doing with what you know. Because it
Right.
doesn't matter. You can have all the great information in the world. We can hear everything that you shared with us 1,000 times over. But if we do not execute on it, if we do not follow through, it is not going to benefit us one iota. So listener, hear what Liz is telling you and then execute on that. Do yourself, your organization, your team a favor and fill your body with healthy, whole foods.
So, Anita, I want to say that a huge problem of the reason that most people don't execute is they're so overwhelmed with a lot of information and a lot of conflicting information based on different companies really looking at trying to make money. We know that.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's really important that that your listeners find someone that can simplify it for them and help them create the behavior patterns, because we know that pattern of behavior takes about 7 to 12 weeks to create a habit. It's not 21 days like most people think. It's literally to be ingrained where you are going to be consistent, because consistency is the key to success in any area of our life. But that consistency is only going to take place is if there's accountability, a clear plan, and the ability to follow through. And so most people do need that accountability because they don't want to have to think about it. They just want to say, okay, tell me what to do. And most people will not hold themselves accountable, but they will be accountable to someone else, especially leaders, because they're very achievement driven and they don't want to disappoint someone. So unfortunately, I know a lot of people feel like they're a failure if they can't figure it out on their own, but there's so much going on in your brain, and I get it, in everyone's brains, that just to simplify a plan, to make it very easy and to implement those changes and to have a way to be held accountable to implement those changes and continue to implement them until they become a habit is critical. And the key to success, and that you need an accountability coach. You need someone that will make the plan for you. And the reason I say that is because as leaders, you mentioned it, that everybody is time crunched. So the last thing that most leaders want to do is have another task to fulfill, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you have someone that tells you exactly what to do, then you can literally just turn your brain off and create the habit over the 7 to 12 weeks.
Exactly.
And show up and get it done. And it's really profound, the success rate, when you approach it from that manner.
Yes. And for the leader who might be tempted to say, well, I'll just have one of my people hold me accountable. Most of the time that's not going to work because they may be intimidated by your position. And so they won't really hold you accountable, or you may tend to disregard as much. It's kind of like that thing where when we were kids, mom and dad might tell us something over and over, and we just kind of blew it off. But you let a third party come in and say almost precisely the same thing, and our eyes get wide and we're like, oh, wow, that's really good information. Having that third party, so maybe a fitness trainer or a health coach come in and to be able to hold us accountable, I think it gives that third party feel where we're not so prone to just kind of blow it off and not follow through. So getting someone who knows what they're doing and someone that you will respect can make all the difference to your success. And like you said, we have to do it long enough. See, a lot of people don't understand the reason that 21 days is not sufficient is because we have to do something long enough to actually create new neural pathways in our brain. And 21 days is not going to take care of that. But that 7 to 12 weeks you're talking about will. We can literally embed new healthy habits into our mind in such a way that we completely retrain our brain and it becomes our new way of life.
Exactly. And it does not, and I keep saying this, but you're just so dead on that connection, that new neural pathway does not even it's not even going to start to be created until about the 7th week. And what happens is we have to push through old habits mentally. And so we have to go against what our brain is telling us. And usually, and I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this, most people quit a program at the 4 or 5 week mark because it becomes really hard, because the honeymoon is over. And if you don't push through, you're going to stop and start. But if you can just have someone hold you accountable and push through to the 7th week, then you're going to go, okay, wow, okay. And you start to think differently. And that's that new pathway in your brain that's being created for your habit. So don't think that you're a failure. Don't think that there's something wrong with you if you want to quit around week 4, 5, or 6. I actually tell my clients that you're going to want to call me up and tell me not to come. And you're going to start avoiding me around week 4, 5, and 6. So I just want you to understand that is going to happen. And there's nothing wrong with you, but we need to address that. We need to push through it. And then you're going to start to get to the other side of it. You're going to feel so much better.
Well, and actually, if we approach it and say there's everything right with us if that happens, because it's a natural part of the process, and having that understanding can give us the impetus we need to go ahead and break through to where we really want to go. Because too often we follow our feelings instead of walking in faith, and that's believing before you see the results. So if we do this in faith, believing that it's going to be temporary, this resistance that we have, but yet it's natural to be expected, means everything's right with the process, but we keep moving forward anyway, come week 10, 11, 12, then it's going to become a part of who we are. And that's the person that we're really made to be. And it's going to bring us to a place where we become exceptional leaders, not just at work, but at home and in the wider world as well.
That's where having that person that has that experience that can hold you accountable, that's going to be the difference. And that's going to be what's going to have you stop that cycle of stop and start.
One of the things that you mentioned just a little bit ago that I want to circle back to because I think it's so crucial. I've created a management certification course. It's called Fast Track Leadership Impact, and it's for the newly hired, promoted, or motivated manager. And
Okay.
one of the very important aspects that I've included in this that you don't typically hear in leadership, but it's the importance of what I call mental breaks and emotional escapes. I feel like if we don't exercise those, then we are going to burn ourselves out. And matter of fact, I don't just think it, I know it. I've seen it far too many times. I've put myself in that position. But one of the ways that I have been able to give myself that mental break and emotional escape is one, by scheduling things to look forward to, being extremely intentional about that. But I also take Sundays and I turn my devices, I turn all of my notifications off. And I'll even take, so I use an Apple Watch. I'll take my Apple Watch off. And if someone's trying to text me or email me or something on a Sunday, they're not going to get a response because I set that day aside for God and family. And by doing that, what I do is I re-energize myself. And I'm so much more equipped to face the work week and what I need to get done. And my performance is higher because I do that. And I think that so often we believe that if we just push harder, if we just do more, then we'll get the results we want. When in fact, sometimes the real key is to push pause. So what are your thoughts about that, Liz?
Well, it's funny you say that because I just got out of a really, really hard time of working 14 to 15 hour days. And what it taught me was that I will never do that again. That achievement is not always the most important thing, that at the end of our lives, that really, truly it's about your relationships and that what are you really working for? And are you working for accolades or are you working to truly make a better life for yourself and your family? And the thing is that we work so hard and we keep thinking that one day we'll get it. Well, the problem is there's always going to be something else on the agenda. So that one day will never come. And so what I started doing is I have a timer on my phone that I turn my timer off at a certain, it silences my phone. And it shuts it down. It makes it inactive, I guess is the best way to put it. And then on Sundays, we do silent social Sundays where there is no social media on Sunday. Do I always adhere to that? No, but I really, in order not to feel obligated to my audience, it sounds so weird to say that because it sounds so my audience, but still, when you have a business and you do what you do, and you're consistent every day, and then suddenly you don't show up, people will think, number one, something's wrong, or we always have that fear that we'll lose out on business if we're not always available.
Right.
But people respect boundaries. And not only do they respect them, they literally want to do business with people who have boundaries because it allows them to have boundaries.
Yes.
And so I really, truly recommend creating those boundaries around your time, around time with your family, about your device usage, and about getting out and and taking Sunday to worship, to rejuvenate your soul. And then what I do is on Saturday afternoons or sometimes Sundays, that's when I do all my meal prep. And so you have everything ready in your fridge. And I joked recently, I took a picture of my fridge and everything was in containers and I had all my proteins and my carbs and my veggies and all the meals were planned out for the week. And I said, this makes me really happy.
It does. It feels so good.
Yeah. Yeah, because then you don't even have to have the stress of, oh gosh, what am I going to make for dinner? And you're rushing home, or what's the go-to? Oh, can we call an order, right? And we all know that that's expensive and it's fattening. And if you eat out more than once a week, you increase your chances of obesity by about 50%.
Oh, so wow.
Yeah. And you increase your chances of being bankrupt by 50%. That was my add-on. But so just the planning, and you can't do all that if you're always on. There's nothing selfish with taking time for yourself and your family. It's truly where you find your joy anyway. It should be.
That's so true. And, the work of our hands can and should be a huge blessing, that contribution that we make, but it shouldn't be all we are. And if it is, then we have imbalance and we're not living the lives that we're made for. And one of the great gifts that I have been given is to be able to set that example of taking those mental breaks and emotional escapes, that weekly Sabbath that I'm so committed to. I will not work on Sunday. That's a day that I set aside. I will not work. And it's tempting when I have big deadlines, let me tell you.
Yeah.
But I have never regretted towing that line. And I've had so many of my clients and friends and even family come to me and say, Anita, thank you so much for doing that and for telling me about that, because, I started doing that for myself. Now my marriage is healthier. My relationship with my kids is healthier. My body's healthier. And I just am enjoying life more. So there's a huge amount of benefit if we will just give ourselves and others that gift. Well, Liz, this has been such a pleasure. I thank you so much for being on the show today, and remind our listeners one more time, where can they find out more about you and what you have to offer?
They can go on Facebook and just type in the name Fit for Christ Wellness, all one word, Fit, F-I-T-F-O-R, Christ, like Jesus Christ, Fit for Christ Wellness. And you'll see me on Facebook, on Instagram. And if you want to go to our website, I only serve women one-on-one. So we have a special division called Fit for Christ Sisters, and that's our website, fitforchristsisters.com.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for all of these insights. And listeners, for you, I really hope you take some of this to heart. Do something with what you know. Drink that water. Stop letting your brain lie to you. Give yourself the 7 to 12 weeks and know that it's going to get hard there for a little bit, but break through. Give yourself the gift of completion, of execution. And know that when you do, you are truly living exceptionally well, which allows you to lead exceptionally well. Thanks for joining me for this episode of the Exceptional Leadership Podcast. I'm your host, Anita Brooks. And I just want to remind you of a truth. If you are not leading at the level that you want to be at, remember, it is never too late for a fresh start with fresh faith. You can start today. You can start making a difference. You can help the world become a better place. You can begin to lead with intent. Your family, your friends, the people you work with, your community, in your church, in our nation, across the planet. Whatever opportunities come your way, remember that did not happen by accident. And by stepping up and leading exceptionally well, you will help fulfill the purpose you were created for.